Welcome to another AutoFluent Pay tutorial. In this tutorial, we'll be specifically going over the concept of refunds inside of the AutoFluent program and the many different ways you have to complete a refund for your customer. Let's jump right into it. To initiate a refund with your customer, there's a couple of different ways to do it, but the bottom line is you need to have a negative transaction of some sort in the system in order to refund it back. Now, there are a couple of different ways to get a negative transaction, and we will go ahead and walk you through the different ways you can do so. First, open up your sales screen here and select the customer that you would like to refund to. In this case, we're going to be using the customer send here, and we're going to create a new work order for that particular customer. Once inside the work order for this particular customer, we're then going to type in the catalog associated with the refund. Now, this is something that is created automatically for you once we onboard you to our payments platform. And so by default, it's going to be called refund. But if you guys would like that name something else, we can do so for you guys when we set you guys up. Clicking refund, we'll type in the refund there, and then we're going to do a negative value for this refund for the amount of, and let's use clean numbers here, we're going to do $100. Once you are confident with the refund amount that you have, and as you can see down below here, it will reflect that as well as $100 in parentheses, which means negative. Go ahead and hover over done and click invoicing. This will bring you to the screen that you're very familiar with, where you could then select the payment method that you want to refund it back to. In this case, we're going to do Visa and MasterCard. So let's click that and then initiate the swipe card. And as you can see here, once you initiate a refund with a negative transaction amount, you are then going to be introduced to this refund and reversal screen. Now, there's 3 different ways you can go about doing a refund, and we're going to walk you through each one, starting off with refund being a card on file. Clicking that will open up the card on file screen. And if you haven't saved a card on file for your customer before, this would be an opportunity to do so and then refund back to that card directly. If you already had cards on file saved for your customer, you could refund to any of the cards on file that are currently there. If you're also trying to do a refund via a manual entry, which means that you're manually typing in the numbers pertaining to the card to do a refund that way, that is what would be considered manual entry. Clicking manual entry is the one we're going to be doing for this purpose sake. After clicking manual entry, you're going to open up into this verified name and zip screen where you get to verify the name that appears on the card as well as the zip code pertaining to that card. Clicking continue past that will open up the manual entry virtual terminal. At this point, you could then type in the numbers pertaining to the card, the expiration date, and then the CVV pertaining with it as well. Now, this is a test card, but you guys would do this with a real card and then click Get Hosted Payments Account ID. You will have to click through a little simple Google CAPTCHA to make sure that you guys are not robots and you have the ability to do this in the system. Let's go ahead and do the fire hydrants. Looks like we're good to go. Once you have completed the Google CAPTCHA, it will then save that card directly to the program here. Now, if you were doing a refund via a manual entry, all you would have to do is enter that card in manually to the system, save it in right here, and then use that card to then refund out. As you can see right there, I then use that card, and as you can see, total charge to card down below here, and clicking that view charges will just expand that a little bit. You will see the amount that was refunded to a card, and if you split it between multiple different card types to do a refund, you'll see each of the individual card types listed below here. Once you have confirmed that you have refund, go ahead and select your cashier and then click Done, which will then initiate and complete the refund for this transaction. It will then also give you a receipt pertaining to that, letting you know that you refunded and the amount that you refunded to. That is the first way to do a refund via the program using the card on file. The next one I will show you will be just refunding directly via the terminal by having your customer insert, swipe, or tap a new card. Let me go ahead and show you that method. Now, let's get into the second way we can go about doing a refund in the system, which is this is going to be a refund directly via the terminal by having your customer insert, swipe, or tap whatever card they would like the refund to. Now, as I described before, the bottom line to initiate a refund is you need to have a negative transaction or a negative value of some sort. In the previous example, I showed you just doing a manual refund using the refund catalog that's built into the program. But this way to do a negative transaction is going to be through a copy negate, which is what we recommend doing as a best business practice, as this will give you the most accurate account of your system and the inventory that's coming in and out. Let's go ahead and create that negative value so we can begin creating the refund for this customer. In this case, I'm going to look up an invoice for this particular customer that I did. As you can see, I'm selecting this invoice of $399.52 that was completed today. Once you have the invoice selected, you would go ahead and hover over this copy negate, and you would be doing a negate invoice. This gives you a little bit of a brief description on what this negate invoice is going to do. It will create a work order, which is the same as the selected invoice, but with negative quantities. Now, the reason for this is for the example of, let's say you sold out some tires that you're refunding into back to your customer. If you're receiving those tires back and you're going to be putting them back into inventory, you're going to want to make sure that that's tracked in the program so that your inventory gets updated appropriately with however many tires they decided to return. Let me give you an example of that. As you can see, once I click negate, it creates a work order 3324, which is a reverse of that invoice particularly. Opening up that, it's going to open up that exact invoice, but with negative quantities now. Now, for example, let's say you're not refunding the shop labor because that's something that your technician actually did, and you can't really refund that. So you would go ahead and remove the shop labor line because that's not being refunded. And then let's say you're only refunding one of the two tires. As you can see, that dropped down the price to 85, and then it's going to give you what the tax would be of charge for that. Now we're going to actually refund all three of those so we can see, and then we're going to go ahead and click done and then invoice, similar to the first example that we gave you. Now you're going to be able to select what payment method that you want to refund to. In this case, we're going to do a Visa/MasterCard, and then we're going to click swipe card. As you noticed before, the method that we did before was a card on file, which you absolutely could do with a physical card as well, but that requires you to save the card first prior to then refunding it out. In this case, if you just want to do a manual transaction directly to the terminal, you're going to click refund or swipe right here, which is going to communicate to whatever terminal was selected down below. In this case, it's going to be Xavier's terminal, which is the correct terminal, and then I'm going to click swipe here. What that's going to do is that's going to shoot that directly over to the terminal that it's specifying, and then it's going to allow you to complete the transaction, whether inserting, swiping, or tapping. I'm specifically going to be inserting this card here. And so let me complete that on the terminal now. The terminal told me to remove the card, and now it is processing out. Once the terminal has accepted that payment and processed it out, you'll see the total charge to cards down below here. And you can also click into this view charges button here to give you a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of the charges that you refunded back to the customer. As you can see, we refunded in a total amount of $294.52. And once it is refunded out, you could then select your cashier and click done here, which is going to complete and finalize not only the refund back to your customer, but any of the items that were currently in your system that were going to be put back into inventory. So in this case, 3 outside tires were then put back into our inventory, and the inventory was adjusted automatically. After that, you have then completed that refund using the insert or the physical terminal to complete the transaction. The next one we will get into is going to be a refund or reversal through finding a particular transaction and linking it to something that you already created in your system. I'll go ahead and show you that next. Great. Now let's move on to the final way you can do a refund directly through the system. Now this is going to be with a concept called a reversal. Now a reversal is linking that particular refund to a transaction that occurred in the system. The reason you would do this is if you wanted to do a regular refund, but you wanted to make sure that that transaction actually existed and occurred with your system under a particular card, you would be able to do a reversal instead. And let me go ahead and walk you through what a reversal would look like. And like I said, there are two ways to get a negative invoice in here. It's going to build off the concepts we just previously talked about, whether you're doing a manual reversal or refund using the actual catalog refund, or you're doing a copy negate. However you want to go about getting that negative transaction in there, once you have that negative transaction, you will then be able to complete a reversal in the system. So we're going to create a new transaction for this customer here, and we're going to go do a manual refund using the refund catalog code. So once we're in here, let's type refund, and then let's type in the amount that we're going to refund, which in this case is going to be $856.80. That's going to be the amount that we're refunding, and we're going to do it for a negative amount. Once you have that negative transaction in here, you can go to done invoice, similar to all the other ways to refund in the past, and then you're going to be introduced to this screen here. Go ahead and select your payment method type. In this case, it's Visa MasterCard, and click the swipe card button. Now, we've already walked through how to do a refund via swipe and a refund via card on file. In this case, we're going to be doing a reversal, which is going to select a specific transaction in our system to then go undo. Once we click reversal, it's then going to have you look up the card on file to look up all the transactions pertaining to that card. So in this case, you will have to add the card to the system, whether you're manually swiping in that card, clicking swipe new card, or you're manually entering that card and you're manually entering the numbers. However you see fit to get the information into the system, once it's in the system, you could then use that card to do a transaction lookup based on that card. In this case, I then did a transaction lookup, and it's going to pull every single transaction that has occurred under that particular last four of that card number. Now, it is going to sort it by payment date, so we're going to go ahead and sort it by the top to get all the recent payments that were completed for this. And now I'm specifically looking for this transaction here, $856.80, and it's invoice number 3057. So that tells me as a business owner that this transaction did occur in my system. It occurred on 6/9, and you have some other, information pertaining to that transaction. If you wanted to look up the transaction here by the last four of card number, you can absolutely do so. As you can see, it's going to pull all the transaction numbers for that particular customer. But in this case, let's say we wanted to only do it by 0243, which is the last four of that card number. As you can see right here, it filters that out, and you're able to easily see which card number or card you're specifically looking at. Once you find your transaction, you can click that and click continue. Or for whatever reason, let's say you're trying to look for this amount of $856.80 and you cannot find it and you can't find a transaction. Well, instead of having to go back to the other screens to do that manual refund, you can just click this button right here, which will refund the card without reversing the transaction. It's completely up to you. This just gives you an extra kind of layer of security to make sure that that transaction under that last four of the card number appeared in the system. As I said, once you find it here, you can go ahead and select that transaction and click continue. And it's going to refund that particular transaction back to the system. As you can see here, the view charges button here will show you that refund of $856.80 as well as some other information. Once you are satisfied with the refund, you could then exit out of here by clicking done, which will close the refund out and make sure that that refund is linked back to that transaction. But on top of that, it gives it back to the customer as well. And after that, you have your receipt that you can give back to your customer like always, but then you have completed that refund in the system and you are now good to go. The refund we just went through are three different types of refund. To go over them, they're the card on file refund, there's the card via swiping refund, and then there's the card via a reversal refund. You have each one of those ways to go about doing a refund in the system. However you see fit, any of those methods will work. Now that we've walked through the three individual concepts of completing a refund inside of the program, you do have one additional refund method that happens outside of the program in the Merchant Track portal directly. This is what we consider a manual refund, and with a refund like this, there will be no linking to the AutoFluent program. If you want it linked to the AutoFluent program, you do have to use one of the three methods described previously, but if you just want to do a refund directly via the Merchant Track platform or the credit card platform, this will show you how to go about doing that. First, you have to access that Merchant Track platform by going to the sales entry screen and then clicking on the Merchant Track button down below. Opening up the Merchant Track will open up this program here, which will allow you to see your business snapshot. Now, what you're going to want to do is go to the recent transaction reports here, which will show you all the recent transactions that you've completed in your system. Once you find the transaction, for example, let's say it's this one here that you would like to then refund out, go ahead and click on the transaction ID to the left of that. And then once you're in here, you will be able to void out or refund that particular transaction. Clicking on that void button here will open up the screen for a transaction reversal. It will then show you the transaction ID, your merchant identifier, and the amount that you are attempting to void. Now, you can only avoid up to the amount that you have taken. So in this case, 107, but I could also always do a partial. Let's say if I want to refund $50 instead. That's completely your prerogative, but whatever number you type into here, all the way up into the transaction net amount, you'll be able to refund back to that specific card via this manual refund button. Once you click void transaction here, the transaction will be successfully reversed here and it will update accordingly in the system. As you can see here, the status is now voided out. And if I go back to the dashboard and I go back to that recent transaction, I will then be able to see in the very near future, give it a couple of minutes, you'll be able to see the transaction that was voided out. And then going forward, that has been refunded back to the customer. Now that transaction was done inside of the Merchant Track platform, and as you can see, there's no linkage to the actual AutoFluent program. So you will have to go back inside of the AutoFluent program if you want that to be reconciled with the software. If not, you can just leave the transaction as such there. And even going back into that transaction, let's go ahead and open that back up here. We will be able to get that voided receipt. So that was actually the wrong one. It was this one here, I believe. And as you can see, it's voided out here, and I can click the receipt, and this will give me the voided receipt here that says that it was voided. So if you ever needed to reprint it for your customers, it's available in your Merchant Track platform. Now, those are all the different methods that you have to refund in the system. At any time, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or you need some assistance with refunding in the system, please, we're more than happy as a support team to walk you through the refunds, walk you through each one of them, or walk you through or talk you through however you see fit on how you want to complete the refund in the system. We're here to help you guys, so it's just one click away. Just give our support team a call, a ring, or connect up via our remote support, and we'll be more than happy to take care of you guys. I appreciate you guys listening to this tutorial on AutoFluent refunds, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye-bye now.